Hey everybody, it's Jen Wigington with IAACE's Tech Talk Thursday with nobody else than the famous Neil Richmond. Woo! And today,
I'm not sure about the famous part, but
you are
with
famous.
Neil Richmond anyway.
You are famous, Neil, especially in my eyes. Today we are going to talk marketing, your program, tips and tricks. So listen up. It's all yours, Neil.
All right. Thanks. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our this edition of Tech Talk. I want to just give a little bit of a couple of things to think about. This is not all encompassing for sure, but I want to think about some different ways of looking at marketing your program. And I know marketing is a bit of a dirty word when it comes to, education and all that sort of thing, because people sometimes feel like, well, we shouldn't have to market or it's not the right word. So feel free to substitute the word outreach every time I say marketing, if that makes you feel better on that side of things. But in the big picture of things, the reason I sort of use some of this language is I began in the business world in the marketing space. And so I've spent a lot of time in the marketing space with companies, as a marketing, chief marketing officer for a company, and also helping organizations think through this. So I just want to give that context. This is something I have thought about for a lot of years of my life. I was a high school teacher, and one of my roles in about the last 12 years of teaching was recruiting students, because we were in private schools where you had to go find the students. So my head has been in this space for a long time. And so I do think about this a lot. But again, this is not covering every little nuance. I want to cover some high level, give some good ideas and tips to work with from there. And hopefully that'll give you some ideas of where to go next. So the first thing I wanted to point out was just what you're attempting to accomplish is somewhat dependent upon what your goals are for your program. And there could be a lot of different goals. So for some of you, it's enrollment. And I would say for most, the number one goal is enrollment. We need more students. We hear that often. And the saddest part of that is usually that means we don't have any prospects to talk to. We don't have a pool of people that we can go to. And I would say some of that is a marketing problem, and some of that is probably a systematic problem. In other words, you don't have a system in place that collects names of people in one place that could be easily reached out to quickly if you need to. And I'll just give a quick example before I go through the rest of these. Part of the system that Connectable brings to programs is creating wait lists for programs. That's what we try to do. We try to find students who are interested, get them to come to the program. But if the timing's not right or there's various factors going on, they go into sort of like a holding place to when we're ready, we can market out to them. And we usually find by doing that, we are able to, when a program says to us, hey, we need more ELL students, we're able to send out marketing, students come back into the system and go through the steps, and all of a sudden the program is at least has more. And in some cases is telling us, all right, stop the floodgates, we've got too many in that case. And obviously that would be a lovely solution for some of you who are concerned about that. But it's about having a system in place as well. And really it's about having a good system in place before you spend money or time or effort or energy in attracting more people into what you're doing. All right, so enrollment is one goal, but what are some others? Retention. What are you thinking about and looking at on how you keep the current students you have engaged in your program? So what does that look like? Well, what have you looked at numbers to see if you've got a significant drop-off of students who started classes and are no longer attending? There's an audience there find out what's going on and be able to talk to them about coming back again. But also, are you moving people through the phases of your program from learning English to getting their high school equivalency, from high school equivalency into training opportunities and all of that sort of thing? So look at the various things that are going on internal and see what you can do to improve on the retention side of things. There's also goals related to measurable skills and helping students to make those gains that are needed. Then there's completion. We know a lot of programs maybe do a good job of getting students in the front door, but they aren't getting the completions that they need on the other end. And so your numbers could simply improve by focusing on helping getting those students to that end goal of getting completion. We've got HSE attainments. That's another goal that a program might have. We've got career training certifications as another goal. We've got employment. Some of you are focused on that a lot, some of you not so much, but I think it's the ultimate goal of an adult ed program. I love the stories that I see, and last month we talked about success stories and how important gathering those are. And I love the stories that talk about a student who maybe started in with the program very gingerly, trying to learn English. They learned English. They then did their high school equivalency, and then they went on and got their certification. You know, maybe it's a parapro, or maybe it's a certified medical assistant, or something in the construction space, or welding, or whatever it is. And now they've got a job, and they have a better life as a result of coming in contact with adult ed. That's the life cycle I feel like we're trying to help build. And we'll get students to only take a piece of that, and then that's the end of their journey. But understanding that full life cycle is important. So when you look at that list, it feels a little overwhelming, doesn't it? But as we know, the question is asked, how do we do it all? Well, we can't. And we've referenced this on our Tech Talks before. I know Jen's referenced it on presentations she's made before. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Well, actually, I don't eat elephant, but if you did, that's how you would take it on. And like any big thing, we have to break it down into small parts, and then we attack the small parts. And little by little, we start to get the big picture. So I've got some small parts that I think make some sense that I would like you to think about with this. So when it comes to marketing, I really feel like, yes, Jen, that is your elephant, by the way. I saw your comment there. That is your elephant. I think we stole it, but it's a shareable elephant. When it comes to marketing, I think you have to look at it as 3 departments, 3 buckets, 3 phases that you go through. And you want a little bit in each to have the biggest bang for your buck. But more than likely, most of you will have to probably limit yourself to 2 of these. And that's the owned and earned. And then some of you will have some funds available to be able to put into the paid side of things. But those are the 3 areas. And that's what I want to explore today, is what you have as assets that you own, what you can do to earn some marketing that's free, and then what you can do if you're going to pay money for some marketing, what I would recommend you focus on and what I would suggest you leave off for now. All right, so let's launch in on that. So let's start with this, owned. Here are the categories that I would think you can own when it comes to your marketing. Number 1, your website. All right, we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a second. 2, social media. And look, I will say without any hesitation whatsoever, social media is not what it once was. And if you spend too much time trying to make social media work for you, you might be disappointed in the outcome. So what I would have you think, and we'll come back around to it, is some strategic things you can be doing. But remember, don't limit yourself and don't focus exclusively on that. And then email newsletters is the next thing that I would be having you think about. Flyers, And we'll talk a little bit about that, how to make use of those, and then special events and how they can impact your program. Now, there are lots of other things you can own. But these 5, I think, are the ones that you can most effectively deploy. And if you've got a good system in place, you can update things quickly and then keep things moving forward. All right, so let's dive into them. Let's focus on the website first. So when it comes to your website, I want you to understand it as a tool and not just a cosmetic item that's out there. Too many programs see it as cosmetic and don't think it's an effective tool for their program. It really is. And I want you to think that way, because that is so important for your program as a whole. It is your doorway. It is your gateway. It is probably the most important thing you can own that is yours, that you can use as a tool because of all the different impact it can have. So it has to speak the language of your community. What does that mean? Well, I mean, obviously, translation is part of that. If you've got a very diverse community with a lot of different languages, making sure you have a translation tool on it that allows you to make it speak in the language, but you also have to have the language of your community when it comes to the way you set the website up. Are the images and the various components of it things that your community would recognize and understand? That's important on that side of things. The other thing that the website does is it gives everyone one doorway into your program. When we start working with adult ed programs, the first thing we do is we emphasize the importance of having a system in place that starts with your website. And I know for some of you out there, this part of the conversation, you're a little frustrated because you're like, I don't get control over my website, or I get like, you know, one little paragraph that I can do anything with on our website, or I'm lost on my district website, et cetera, et cetera. And we've helped programs fight the battle on this and win to be able to get their own distinct website and entity. It makes all the difference in the world. But what we help programs think about is you have to direct everybody to your website as the starting point for the journey. That's what I say when I say one doorway. Why? Because it allows us to collect all the names in one place. That meets 2 important criteria. One, a DWD directive to have a cataloging or listing of all inquiries into your program. And then 2, it meets the important need of being able to go back and see who's not taken the next steps and re-message back to them with all of that. So that's why that's an important part, and you have to think of your website that way. And of course, it gives useful data and information to visitors about your programs, what you offer, when you offer them, the locations, etc. That's an important part of it being a tool. But all your marketing efforts have to drive you there. That's a key component that I want to emphasize, and you'll see that when we go through some of the other examples. And then I would highly recommend you keep it very simple and very clear. The more stuff you put in, the more complicated it gets, the less likely students will take the next step. So here's an example. Neo Adult Ed. Here is their portal website that we've built for them. Very simple messaging, not a lot in the menu, very clear branding and colors, and the statement that's posed at the top: now is the time to take the next step toward your future. And then a button to get started. Very clear, very simple. You'll see up in the right corner the translate as well. And we have about 70 languages that we can translate a website into, so students can understand what's being asked of them as they go through. Here's another example. This is for Fort Wayne Community Schools Adult Ed program. They have a little more things on their website, but there's, first of all, some statements made. Let us help you reach your goals. Okay, what do you want to, what's your goal? All right, I want to learn English. Well, great. There's the button, and then it gives information around that. I need to get my high school diploma equivalency. There's the pathway for that. I'm interested in career training. Here's the pathway for that. It's also on the menu as well. And you see, it makes it very simple for students to be able to know what you offer, right? Learn English, high school equivalency, career training. It's there, it's big and bold. And then take the next step as they go through on their journey. So that's, and I didn't go digging into all the other pages and different things like that that are available. But I wanted to focus a little bit there around the homepage, because the stats tell us about 80% of the visitors to your website will go to the homepage at some point in their visit. So that homepage is key, and it's usually the page most people start on. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the next thing that you can own and manage and make great use of, and that's social media. Okay, you recognize those buttons at the bottom probably: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Well, I will tell you, for most of you, Facebook is going to be where it's at. We just did some looking at numbers here recently for a couple different programs in the greater Indy area here. And with all the traffic they get to their website and all the things that come through, the number 1 social media tool is Facebook. And it counts for probably nearly 10 out of 10 visitors are coming from Facebook. And in general, though, social plays such a small part in the big picture of other things once you get the wheels turning. Can't ignore it, but don't spend forever on it. So here's a couple of things that I would recommend. First thing, get into the local community Facebook groups. So there are like chatter groups and different things like that that you can be a part of in your community. We have had great success being in there, and most of them will have no issues whatsoever with nonprofit organizations sharing opportunities for their members. You're not selling anything here, you're sharing an opportunity for them. And in case somebody, gets their nose bent out of shape in one of the groups, that's a conversation you can have with the admins about that. So get in there, share what's going on in your program, and I'll give you a few examples of that in a minute. Frame your messaging, be brief and powerful, use keywords that people would be looking for. If it's career related, talk about the career opportunity and job opportunities that could come from that. If it's about needing more students who are interested in learning English, make that the focal point of what you share. Hashtag, use hashtags to include. So do a hashtag IAACE, right, Jen? Well, we go woo IAACE right there. That's important in the whole big picture of things. We definitely want to remember that, and that sort of shares that out. But there's so many others that we need to be thinking about as well. Do you need to hashtag your local school corporation in there, or other organizations locally? What does the hashtag mean, in case you're not sure about it? The hashtag means you are adding what you're posting to any collection of posts that have that same hashtag. And some people go searching by hashtag to look for certain things. And so if you want to be in the mix and attract people who don't know you, that is a great way to do that. And it's also a great way to pull in some of those other organizations that are out there and get them plugged in as well. Okay, so then follow up on tagged people. So what we see often is when you do a post like that, you'll see names of people who are tagged in the comments for that post. Why? Because what they're trying to do is let somebody know that this is out there. Hey, this would be a great opportunity for you, Amy. And they tag their name. And so what you can do is follow up with those people and say, hey, I'm with such and such adult ed. I saw somebody tagged you. I'd love to reach out and have a chat with you about what we offer and how we do it. Simple way to connect with people and start the conversation, and then put them through, tell them the next step on what they need to be doing. And then I would be publishing evergreen material. What does evergreen mean? Doesn't have a timestamp on it. It's always there, so that even if people find it later, it's correct information. That's key right there. Yes, keep the social media for sure is important when it comes to that. But sometimes, and I'll show you an example of where we did one for program and it wasn't evergreen, and it made it irrelevant later. And what happened was number of people went to, they saw it months later, thought this was great, went to it and went to a dead end because it was no longer available, instead of keeping it something that was open. So just a little something we've learned, a little tip on that. And then give them an easy next step. That's another important part of social media marketing. Give an easy next step. All right, let's look at a few things. We're going to take some Facebook examples now, and let me share with you a few things that we've done. So messaging tips. Oh yeah, let me get through those there. Be friendly, but not goofy. I do like to be goofy sometimes, and sometimes goofy is good, but I would stay with more friendly in this case. Be warm, but not gushing as you're reaching to people. Don't sort of like, what's the word I want? Clamor to have that conversation with them. But be directive, but not bossy when it comes to that. Yes, we all like being goofy, don't we, Jen? For sure there on that side. But be informative, but don't make it a million words. Don't be verbose. Be motivating, but not pushy. Be empathetic. We understand your fears. And especially in some of these areas, it is hugely fearful for people to want to take the next step. They just haven't. And the reason they haven't is mostly fear. Some of it's time with all of that, but some of it's fear. And we want to try to take away some of that fear and let people know that we understand. Be accessible as a favorite teacher would be on that side of things. All right, so here's an example of an ad we did for medical assisting classes. And you can see there, a fairly short little introductory text at the top. Then a link where they would click to be able to go and take the next step. And you can see here, I would even say we've gotten better than when we did this one, because this one still has a lot of information in it. But if you think about it, we've got an image. That is what the student could potentially be interested in. We've got partnership images here. So we're pulling in the partners, and we've got the basic information somebody would need. And then if they were to click through on that, that would go through to the page on the website that has the next step for them. So a little bit of text, a little bit of information, and then a link off. And that page is always there. So if a student finds this months later, if there's still something available, that page will show it. And that's important in all of that. Then the next thing that we would be looking at here, we've highlighted some of the elements of this, the text, the link, and so forth. That link is so important with all of this. And look at this. This was up only a very short period of time when we took the screenshot, but we'd already had 10 comments and 6 shares. And we've seen some of these have like dozens of shares to people who have shared off to somebody else or on their page or on their organization page. Here's another one for a boot camp. Get your high school equivalency diploma in as little as 3 days for free. All right, very attractive headline. There's the link for more information, some branding, and then a picture of the outcome. And I'll bring this up in a couple places, but here's a real big tip that people miss often. They're promoting their program and they put a picture of their building. I love people's buildings and there's a place for them, because often people are afraid because they don't know where they're going. But at this stage in the marketing process, the building is irrelevant. What a student cares about is, hey, I want that to be me. I want to be there with the grad cap on and the diploma saying I achieved my high school equivalency. And so you're helping them identify with an outcome, which is huge. Here's a couple more different programs, how we've rolled that out for them, and how we've helped them to tell their story with all of that. And again, focusing on the link is a big part of it. This is obviously a graphic. We'd have some text around that that would also have the link in it. But again, we're focusing on the end result. We're giving them a little bit of information and then telling them where to go to get more. And that's a key component to that. So if we turn now to flyers, because I want to show they're similar, but they're different. In a flyer, we get to have a little more information on a page, but we're going to do some of the same things. We're going to be driving next steps with all of that. And some of them have more information than others. Some of them are what we'd call a little more inclusive. But, you know, great places to put flyers would be like, for example, a laundromat. People are sitting there and they've got time on their hands. Well, they could pick something like that up and see it that's interested. Or if you see the one on the right, we've even got a QR code where they could scan it with their phone and go right to the page. And away they start in the process. So those are great strategies that you can utilize. Here's another ad, and I got them out of order, sorry. This shows you all the different comments and different things that were said as this grew, this particular ad grew and that. And so you can see here, you know, is this, do I need to earn a certain amount in order to qualify? Well, Amy jumped in and replied and explained that, no, that's not. Is this for adults only? Again, jumped in and explained it so that they would know more. And then a person said, Amy, I'm interested. Do I just show up? How do I sign up? And they'll give an information around that. Here's another student that says, I'll be there. Somebody like that. Here's somebody who tags somebody. So the power, there's a lot of power in that. There's no doubt about it. About communicating out so people know. And if you think about it, it's the very top level, it's awareness. Are people aware that a program like this exists? That's what you want to communicate. Here's one that we didn't do so well. This was for a boot camp, HSE boot camp. You know, we've used this presentation where we say, what did we do wrong? I'm not going to jump around it a whole bunch. I'll tell you what we did wrong. The link had a month in it. So adulted.info/December bootcamp. Very bad idea. A, it's a little too long. B, it means that when it's not December, where do I go now? So think about that as you put stuff together. Includes dates on it and that. Whereas we wanted to try to be a little more generic where we can. And it's way too wordy. Too much information to consume with all of that in a headline. So if you think about that versus, let me go back a few slides, look at how effective this ad is compared to the one we just had. Get your high school equivalency HSE diploma in as little as 3 days for free versus this. So much more information. So be aware of that as you're putting things together. That doesn't mean this isn't effective, and this was effective. It's just that in the big picture of things, how can you simplify it and make it easy for people, and make it easy for people who discover this months later? It's January, it's February, it's March. They come across this post. Now it's all about December. Oh, it means I missed it. Oh, well, I'll just move on. Instead of being something that is evergreen, meaning at any point somebody could see it and go, oh, I'd love to know more about that. Let me find out. Here's one last thing on that. Make sure you're publishing and posting from your personal account, not from your school account. A lot of these groups and that sort of thing don't allow that. So you're going to have to do it as you as an individual. And there are people who are very afraid of posting out as themselves and that sort of thing. But that's a big part of this story. Or maybe you've got somebody on your staff at your program who could do that, who loves doing that and would be the representative for that. Like I've said before, make sure they're following up as well. All right, there's lots of other things on this here, and I want to make sure I get through those as well. So email newsletters. Here's an example of one. Again, we want it where possible to be translatable. How can you make that happen? How can we deliver it to their hand? You know, to their phone. You might text that there's a link available to the newsletter for students to read, or it comes into their email. You want to make sure you have share buttons on it so they can share that email newsletter out to someone else as well. It definitely include inspirational stories as well. A little bit of information about what you're doing, but how can you tell the stories that your program are about? And if you're not sure how to get the stories, listen to last month's Tech Talk, where we talked about gathering success stories. And if you don't have a system of your own, use IAACE's success story platform that we helped integrate for them to be able to gather those stories. That's where you could send your students to, for sure. Make sure the information is timely as well, that has relevance for where we are now, and that it's informative. And, you know, just, you don't have to do all of cover every single bits of information, and then promote sharing. Ask people to share it amongst that. Include pictures, all very important parts of the whole big picture here. Yeah, so a good question that come through. Why does it have to be from a personal and not a school account? A lot of these organizations, these groups and that sort of thing, they won't let an organization in, but they will let you in as an individual. So that's the big difference. And so they're okay to post. It's just that they don't even allow access for like a page, for example, to become a member of that group. And so individuals, the best way to accomplish that. We ran into a whole bunch of problems with this, that, and everything else. And you know, in the end, we just ended up working out that that's the cleanest way to get the job done. All right, and then last thing, flyers and special events on this side of thing. Clean and clear, like we've talked about, is a key component. All right, stuff's not moving forward. Something weird just happened to my presentation. There it is. Why is that not showing? Slides. Huh. Interesting. Well, I will share what I had anyway there. So when it comes to flyers, use modern designs. And we really love and recommend, especially for those who aren't graphic designers, use templates in Canva. Canva is a free online graphic design tool that you can use to build flyers. CANVA is exactly canva.com. You can use that. Think about your doorway. How many ways can people come into the program? Should be one through the website. So make sure you're focusing around that. Who's responding to that, and how will you get them to engage? Those are the questions you need to answer as you build it. It should be informative. You should be able to come up with ways to promote sharing and include pictures on it as well. And I really like, as another marketing strategy, events. Having a open house for your program where you invite the community to come in and see what happens at your location. Have public interest events. So maybe it is a citizenship awareness class put on by a local organization. And so you're getting the message out, you're bringing students in, you're allowing them to see your program in your doors through that. And I love the use of banners out on the roadways where you can to promote events that you're having. You know, Adult Ed Open House, February 26th, all welcome, 7 p.m., whatever. And then as people go by, they see it. You will get people that will show up that day because of it, because you had something out on the road promoting your program as another way to do that. Okay, so let me quickly jump over to the other categories, and then I'll take some questions. So we've talked about owned. These are all the things down in this side of the equation here. Owned, that these are the things you have possession of and can control. All right, well, let's talk about earned, which is a different category altogether. These are the things that you get as a result of the good work you do. So Google reviews is an earned promotional tool. How do you get those? You ask people to give those. And then when people do give you a Google review, you respond to those. You say thanks for the great review. You appreciate them. You respond to people who weren't as happy with what happened and comment about things accordingly to foster that. You can also get reviews on your Facebook page. Not as effective because Google reviews have huge impact on your overall marketing. And then I love the idea of sharing your positive stories, and that could be on social media, on other people's social media, having other people share the stories, et cetera, et cetera. But again, we're going back to the stuff we dealt with last month where we're talking about success stories and gathering those. So you've got those as fuel to use in your marketing. So you might make a flyer and all you do is use a quote from one of the students and a picture of them that says, "This changed my life." It's real, it's true, and it's effective, et cetera, et cetera. But these are things you earn. By doing a great job as a program, people will review you and will be happy to review you. People will be happy to tell their story of the impact that you've made. So that's what earned marketing is all about. And then the last little piece of this is paid. And I know a lot of programs do not have the money to put into paid things, but if you do, or you have donors who are willing to help with this, I would suggest here are some of the things to think about. Print ads is one. Could you get an ad in a local publication or newspaper or something like that? Many of them either have to give a portion of their space to nonprofits or want to donate or give special rates to nonprofits as a way to help their organization. So think about print ads. All right, the next one is TV. And I know that's a crazy thought, the cost of TV ads and that sort of thing. But again, you might have somebody who would love to see that happen and could help to sponsor that. Radio ads, they're effective and they can be very affordable because of the repetition. So if there's popular stations, so if you were trying to reach Spanish speaking potential students into your ESL or ELL classes, you might run ads on a Spanish radio station locally as a way to attract people in. And then what you do on that ad is you don't tell them to call the phone number. You set your website up to collect people's names and information, and you drive them to the website. And again, sometimes you have to think about the URL because you don't want to obviously give a really big URL either. But that's one other great tool. Billboards, again, could be really pricey, but boy, if you could get a billboard or two, or maybe even go to a billboard company and say, "Hey guys, we're in the area, we're a nonprofit, we make a difference in the community. Do you have ability to give us like remnant space, leftover space that's not being used, that we could have for running an ad up on a billboard?" And if you do, I would say there's a couple big things: big picture, big headline, and a call to action. And the call to action should be to a specific page on a website, not to your homepage. And that breaks some of my rules, but why would you do that? Because that way you can track how many people have come from the billboard. which is important, because if you later on, if they come back and say, hey, we think this was probably a pretty good tool for you, would you like to become a regular subscriber to the billboards? If you knew that it led to you getting students as a result because you had it tracked, you might be able to find a sponsor or work it into your budget. But if you have no idea if it's effective, I wouldn't want to spend the money. And the best way to do that is to send them to a unique link on your website. That is the only way they get to that page is from the billboard. And then you'll know, at least have some idea whether or not that billboard was effective. Then another one would be direct mail. The post office has a great service called Every Door Direct Mail. I think that is EDDM. I know that. And the idea is that you can deliver to postal routes at a hugely reduced cost. So you print up a nice postcard, you drop it into their little system for that. It goes to an entire postal route. So a USPS worker has special routes that they go through. The smallest amount you can do is one of those routes. And then for like 10 cents, I want to say, per piece, they will deliver those for you. And especially if there's some neighborhoods that you would like to target, that's a great effective tool to do that. And then lastly, I would say paid search, which means when people Google you, you've got an ad at the top. That can be expensive and take some expertise. So I don't recommend that to too many programs because of the cost. But if you had to find the whole, let's say you had a bunch of funding for a certain career training and you wanted to get that more visible, you might do this in order to get there. Google does offer $10,000 a month in free advertising for nonprofits. It's quite a process to apply, but it's available. And that's something that you might want to think about applying to on that side of things. Yes, so the Every Door direct mail is at the USPS.com. So it's USPS.com, Every Door direct mail. Or you can search for that in Google and it'll come up as well. Online ads is another thing you can do using like Facebook, paid social. Again, on that, how do you decide? Well, it's all about what you can afford. I would say most of these that I've crossed off are the more expensive options. So as a result, I often like to recommend community sponsorship. How can you get plugged into different things in your community where a partner is paying for it, but they're presenting you and your name through everything. And then, of course, make sure you tie everything back to your website is a key thing. All right, that is, as I like to say, 100 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound bag. I know that it's a lot of stuff, but I wanted to give you a bunch of ideas and little things we've learned along the way as we help adult ed programs around the state and other states to improve their visibility and beyond.
Fabulous, fabulous information as always, Neil. The website is so key. And as I visit other websites and different things that I add to our own website, I'm like, I know I need to do a better job of making sure that everything goes back to the website.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. All right. Any question?
I think that we've answered the majority.
Answered them as we went, didn't we?
Yeah, because they were so correlated to what you were talking about at the time that I think we answered them all. Let me do one double check. Yeah, I do believe we did. But if there's any more, feel free to unmute yourself and ask away.
It's pretty overwhelming for me because I'm older and I'm not a social media person. I do not want to be on social media myself.
Yeah. Well,
you don't have to be.
No.
Whenever I used to work for a literacy organization, I set up a fictitious Joe member person or his name was Joe Literacy, and all of the accounts were set up under a generic email for that organization. And we ran that way, my admin could actually go and like things, everything. And so once you had that, you could, so you don't have to, there's ways around it.
Well, it might take the right person to do it.
Well, and that might be it too, looking for somebody either on your team or who would
Yeah.
love to help with that, who's
I mean,
younger and into it.
I would go on the radio. I have no problem with that.
Yeah. Well, but here's the thing. I would shortcut it and I would say, if it's your responsibility, I would say, which of those things make sense? I would print flyers. I'd get a couple good flyers, or at least one for each of the programs you offer, and I would get those everywhere. That right there could be one thing you could do, and make strides forward. But it's got to be in the right place where your target students hang out. That's the key to it. So where that could be it could be asking a restaurant if they would put these out, when people are waiting to get seated, or for employees. It could be, at your laundromats and that sort of thing. It could be in the grocery store, or I know like Panera and the like have little bulletin boards you can put stuff at. Apartment complexes are great places to get that out. So thinking about that would be a key component right there, and taking the list. And I always say to people, 3 would be a real big push, 3 things. But if you identified 3 things from the list we gave that you could accomplish, and then just picked one and started with that, and then in the next 7 days got that rolling, that would make a difference right there. And then you look at another one and you go, okay, so let's take this one on. Then you look at another one, and so on, and you work your way down the list. But I agree. I mean, I was more like, let's just put it this way. I was presenting the restaurant model that is a buffet. And last time I've tried this, and it doesn't work well when you try to take one of everything from the buffet. A, it falls off your plate, and B, you get too full.
There you go. You make a really valid point, Neil. Whenever it comes to trying to do it all, don't pick what you know that you can accomplish on the list, and then delegate the rest. I mean, if a lot of programs don't have their own person that does marketing for them, it's not someone's full-time job.
Yeah.
So if everybody took a little part of it, then doesn't fall on one particular person.
Yep.
And then the person that will enjoy that particular piece best will be the one doing it.
Yeah, it is. Well, I know I've got to jump, as I got another call coming. So hopefully that information was useful for everybody. And again, we're happy to answer questions and all of that. But the idea is to get you thinking. And again, if I can get you thinking about one thing you can do that you maybe haven't tried, that might find some more students and get some more balls rolling. The other thing I'll quickly throw out is, what can you do with your current students to have them reach out to other students? Give them a flyer. Go around your classes and give them a flyer to invite more students in. That could be your quickest way to get some action happening. So
nothing better than word of mouth. And that's a great note to end on. That's today's Tech Talk. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Good one, everybody.
I appreciate it.